Welcome to Control Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre live. I'm Lisa Duerre, your guide through the ever-evolving landscape of leadership and tech. We're breaking down barriers and bringing our community together in real time. So whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your office chair or catching the replay later, please know that your voice matters. Speaking of voices, that's what firm leadership is all about. Listening, inviting wisdom, and embracing the collective intelligence of our teams. Because let's face it, no one leader has all the answers. And that's where you come in. As we dive into today's discussion, please be an active participant. Drop your thoughts, questions, and insights into the comments below. This isn't just my podcast, it's ours. Together, we're rebooting Leadership Drive. And before we kick things off, I'd like to mention that this podcast and live stream experience is brought to you by RLD Group. As your host and the CEO of RLD Group, I'm grateful for the opportunity to collaborate in bringing this podcast to life. Together, we're committed to empowering organizations, teams, and leaders like you, and your engagement in this conversation is invaluable. So without further ado, let's jump into the conversation, get comfy, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's make some magic happen. Hello. Welcome to Control Alt Delete live with Lisa Duerre. I am so excited you're here on whatever social media platform you're joining us. And if you're here for the replay, thanks for tuning in. We are excited to be bringing this topic to you today. Today's episode is called The Power of Intuition, Actionable Insights for Leaders. This is part of our Firm Leadership series. And it was interesting as I was preparing for this topic, trying to even define intuition for myself, right? I know what it feels like for myself. I know how it shows up in decision making. I know when I've misread it, right? All those things. And I didn't want to have this conversation alone. So I brought in one of my trusted colleagues and, lifelong comrades, if you will, when it comes to even unpacking our own intuition. So I'm here today joined with my amazing co-host, colleague, guest, and everything extraordinary, Gabes Coplan. And Gabes and I are going to talk about intuition together. So let's bring Gabes on. There you are, Gabes. Hey there. Welcome to the show.
Hey.
Hey. We're going to do it. Intuition today. Let's do it. Right?
Let's follow our intuition.
So Gabes and I have actually worked together inside tech for over 20 years. And now we work together consulting outside of tech, but supporting tech leaders and beyond. And I think we should share some personal stories. I think we might talk about when we thought it was, what intuition was, when it wasn't, and also just land for our audience some practical, actionable insights so that we can tap into our intuition. Because here's the because, everybody. The rate of change is so great that it's nearly impossible for one leader to have all the answers. So I have a quote here I want to just bring up to frame this for us. It's the rate of technological change is now accelerating so fast, it has risen above the average rate at which most people can absorb all these changes. So as a leader, you're with all of this data and information coming at you, the change fatigue everyone's experiencing. If you're relying on yourself or data alone, you can be missing some critical things because your intuition is here to support you. So Gabes, what do you want to say about that as we jump in?
Well, I've listened to a lot of podcasts and taking in information and talking to people. And lately, it's so funny that you started there because a lot of it has been around how much information we're getting and all the noise of information. And because we are getting so much information, there's a disconnect between, what's coming in and then how fast we process it. And that's where intuition, that natural ability to sense or know something beyond the rational thinking or the data or the analysis or your gut feeling a lot of people refer to. So it just totally makes sense, where you went.
Well, I'm going to go there because especially you and I love Clifton Strengths so much and we use that inside our engagements. And I think about folks that are analytical, right? There's a lot of analytical strengths inside tech. And that means I like data and I want to reason it all out and think it all through. And here we are, talking to leaders in tech about something that is it's your body's analytical system, but not necessarily your brain, right? And so I just really appreciate that we can have this conversation because if you think about burnout prevention and you think about good decision-making, I'll say good in air quotes, solid decision-making, if we don't tap into our intuition, I think that with this rapid evolution, we're going to be making some really poor decisions and scrambling in ways we haven't even seen before.
Mhm.
So, yeah, one of the things I wanted to start with is defining intuition versus instinct, right? Just to give people a chance. So we're going to have it up here on the ticker, and I'm going to read it. And then Gabes, you get to, I'm not going to play Jeopardy, but you get to, add your thoughts here too. Okay. So instinct, let's talk about instinct. As leaders, we obviously use our instincts a lot, a natural or inherent aptitude, impulse, or capacity, right? So instinct is you have this like internal pull and you just, okay, we need a reorg, or that product's no good, or this customer, I don't feel like they're going to like seal the deal, right? Or maybe we really need to fix this bug, just as some examples. So when you think about instinct, what is some examples that come to mind for you? Just a presence here, and then we'll get into intuition.
Well, instinct comes to us naturally through our biology as well. So it's part of our survival mechanism, and
Mhm.
so you have instinct, and so just to, you're walking down the street and it's a dark alley. Do you go down that alley, or do you keep yourself safe, right? And keep
Mhm.
walking down where there's lights. So that's instinct right there. It's naturally in us. It's a biological necessity to keep us safe as well. So
Mhm.
that's my little.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I was thinking too about the always on, never good enough. I don't want to get laid off. What if they reorg and I lose my job? All the things that go on, that like survival aspect of instinct and all of the neuroscience that comes with just the stress and the pressure of it.
Mhm.
Sometimes, I just think that sometimes naming this will help us just walk this path together, right? So, a couple of other things about instinct is it's automatic, it is nervous system and it's genetic code, it's predictable and fixed, and it's not necessarily influenced by emotions or beliefs, and it operates without conscious control or choice. And if you think about it, it's all about survival and it's the physical foundation, and it's useful for automatic behaviors, reflexes, and survival situations. And I think when people are in burnout, they think they're using their intuition, but it's really an instinct that's uh, sprinkled with stress and fear and what's next. So let's just get this done or do whatever. And I have a story about that I'll talk about in a minute.
Mhm.
Shift to intuition just to drop into that because working with you for the 20 plus years we've worked together, you are such a model of intuition in how you lead and how you make decisions and how you coach. So I'll read intuition and then I want the Gabe's perspective because you always keep it real with tangible things. So, intuition, the power or faculty of attaining to direct knowledge or cognition without evident rational thought or inference. How's that for some big words? Right? But this is, it's voluntary, it's subtle, there's subconsciousness involved. It is flexible and adaptable, which is why this is part of our firm model RLD group. But Gabe's, how would you describe intuition for the folks listening in today?
Well, I said it earlier about that gut feeling, and I'm going to pull in one of the things that when I'm working with clients, I am a sensation based motivational coach. That's one of the practices of coaching I do. And this is where their intuition taps in. And it's typically when a client is talking about a situation and you can see there's some resistance around it. I will ask them, where do you feel it in your body and what does it feel like? And I probably should track this a little bit, but I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's in their core area and it's typically in their stomach area. So it's that gut feeling. And the thing that I find fascinating about intuition is that it's going beyond that rational. I said it earlier, that rational reasoning. It doesn't mean that you can't use data, as a point, because we're constantly looking for evidence as humans.
Mhm.
That's part of what we do, pattern recognition. And so what intuition is that you may see a pattern and then tapping into that gut feeling, that inner knowing of what either decision to make or an action to take. So that's how I describe intuition to clients.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you talk about the sensation based motivation coaching you do, because one of the things when I was early in my career, I took the Myers Briggs, right? And my intuition was pretty high on there. I was like, oh, look at that. I'm like a clairvoyant. I can read into things, right? early in my career.
Where's your
And then
magic
I
8 ball? Your magic
Right?
8 ball.
Yeah, and then I was like, "Oh, wait, that just means, like, I really do tune in and I observe things." I'm
Mhm,
also someone who's willing to take a risk because I believe in myself that I'll figure it out, and
mhm.
so, like, tapping into my intuition or a gut instinct, is a more natural experience for me. That doesn't mean people who work for me love it, and it doesn't mean I can explain it to people, but it is an experience. Well, you've worked with me for all these years. Sometimes it's just the right thing to do, Gabes. I can just feel it, right? So I'm curious if there's any phrases your clients use or that you've seen that might help people see that they already are using their intuition, but they're not calling it that.
You know what? A lot of times clients will say, I just know. And then what's really interesting is even if clients are exhibiting resistance to using that just knowing feeling, you can then ask questions. And I know, Lisa, you love appreciative inquiry. You can ask questions around what would that look like if you took that action? So getting comfortable with the outcomes, the possible outcomes, because part of what I see a lot of times is people don't trust their intuition. Because again, going back to what you were talking about, all the information that we're getting, the constant information, and it's everywhere, people rely on that without realizing that their intuition a lot of times has already kicked in and has already given them that signal like, yes, I should go down that path.
Mhm.
Yes, that is the right thing. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, we can always fix it, you know. And so that's part of just listening to clients say, I believe, you know, or I feel that this is the right thing to do. So
Yeah, I really I remember when I first left corporate and was running retreats for women executives who were burnt out, trying to help them reboot and stay inside their careers and their lives. We had a client in one of these retreats, and I called them whispers and white space retreats.
mhm,
You've been, and so whispers and white space to me is how you tap into your intuition. The whispers is the intuition. The white space is the quiet, the calm, the blocking out the noise and like tapping into your inner knowing. And she was looking at two different jobs and sitting in this retreat going, I just don't know which one. I just don't know which one. And so as we were processing the experience for her to like drop into her knowing, as you said, in the core, she just got really clear because one of the questions I said is, "How do you wanna feel? And how does
mhm,
it feel?" So imagine you took this job. How do you feel?
mhm,
Imagine you took this job. So getting you into an imaginary state, right? With a spa experience, she ended up taking the job she really wanted, and she was there for 3 years and made a tremendous impact and always said, I couldn't quiet the noise until I was at that retreat." And
mhm,
so I think one of the cool things to think about is as leaders, where is that whisper? And how do you allow that white space for yourself to just have quiet? I know nature is a really great way to like tap into your knowing. Some people go
mhm.
on runs or they exercise. The shower is a great place where ideas come from, right? Who doesn't,
Yep.
or hot bath? That's one of my favorite places. What are some tips you give your clients to just access and to allow themselves? My language is whispers and white space, but just to tap into their inner knowing.
One of the things, I mean, you mentioned it is getting nature, but even going for a walk, allowing yourself to go for a walk, uh, having a cup of coffee in the morning and just looking out the window. You know, put on the timer if you think you don't have the time, but really, it's necessary for us to have the ability to tap into our intuition and to have that clarity that people are looking for. Slowing down to go fast, right? I'm constantly telling my clients that you need to slow down to go fast. And so, getting back into your body, doing practices, whether it's exercising, going for a walk, people like to do yoga. Some people like to, take a nap. Take a
Mhm.
nap. I'm all about naps. Like I tell people, take a nap. But really, like you said, allowing yourself that quiet place to think. Some of my best ideas is road therapy. I love going for drives. I really do. I used to travel a lot back and forth to the Bay Area and the very long drives, and I would go different ways just because it was, see something different, things would come to me, I could work out things, and oftentimes that was the time where I could tap into my intuition and figure out, okay, how do I wanna go with a particular situation?
Yeah, I've done so many drives. I have this deck of cards called changes cards, and it's reflection cards, and you don't have to use changes. I love them. But I know sometimes even just asking yourself a generative question with quiet, a
Mhm,
reflection moment, right?
mhm,
And yes, sometimes it's staring at a leaf for me, just watching the leaf blow in the wind.
mhm,
Um, I think that one of the gifts we give ourselves and anyone that we lead is modeling that too. So even one of the things I've noticed too with our clients is these leaders are so busy, they're not even sharing what's inside or what their thoughts are. They're just like, get to the next thing. So
Yes.
how cool would it be if, you had a conversation as a team meeting? When's the last time you had 10 minutes of quiet to just reflect or just be?
Mhm.
I did that last week, and this is an idea I had. Like, how might we model, just like you and I are giving examples, what leaders can do in their teams too? So I think it's a really great point to just invite all of us to think, when has my gut been right? When have I trusted it? And how do I usually access it? Because with this rate of change the quote that I shared from Eric Teller at the Google X Research Lab, this is the way I see through. And this is how I see the we in the leadership model that we have at firm. How do we help our teams? Well, we have to create that space, even in team meetings. How
Mhm.
about reflect on 10 minutes, no talking in a team meeting, and allow yourself to drop in? So, yeah,
I'm
these are,
curious. I'm
Mhm.
curious. I'm gonna cut you off. So,
Yeah.
because one of the things that's been on my mind too is around intuition. Is people will ignore their gut feeling because they're afraid to act on it because ultimately they may be wrong and they have to
Mhm.
take responsibility for that, especially the leaders, right?
Yep.
They might ask for a lot of data just to try to justify the decision. I'm curious, when have you followed your intuition? What was the outcome for you? And
Mhm.
what did you learn if the outcome wasn't everything you wanted it to be?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm not gonna paint, this is not Instagram. Let's keep it real, right? Real talk with Lisa. Yeah, I have misread intuition. I have thought it was intuition and it was instinct because I was rooted in fear and burnout. I have not always done this right. The greatest gift I think I've gotten in that is I always try to look for the learning in it.
Mhm.
So maybe the learning can be in me sharing one of these examples, Gabe, so that people
Please.
can see themselves. I would say let's just go for the big one. I think one of the biggest missteps I made from an intuition standpoint is I was an executive with a very busy job, and one of my direct reports had a pretty big family crisis, is the best word I could use. It was an ongoing thing because there was a lot of grief involved. And me, I'm a pretty open leader to like hold space for people. If you're sick, take the day. If something's going on, do what you can, just get your job done, no problem, and we'll work with you if you need a leave. I've
Mhm.
taken a medical leave. I know what it's needed. But at this point in my career, I was severely burnt out, like classic case of burnout, and I didn't understand that what was going on. I just kept pushing harder and harder and harder. So when this employee needed more of me than I had to give at that time, what I thought was intuition, which is let's just, part ways, I think was really an instinct for survival because I didn't feel like I could do any more and I felt overwhelmed and I felt like I was failing that person. But I disguised it or interpreted it as intuition, like, oh, I know what to do. I'll just go reorg, right?
Mhm.
And we'll change this up and we'll replace this person. And thank goodness for colleagues that you trust. And I had a conversation with a colleague that I just said, "This is what I'm thinking." I wanted to run my idea by, and I'm just feeling like it's not working anymore, and I don't know what else to do. My
Mhm.
gut says this is what I should do. And my colleague said, "I don't think your gut's right. I think you need to move this person to someone else who has the capacity because they're amazing and they have deep grief that you are not equipped in your
Mhm.
world to handle right now. Like you're just
Mhm.
not. Doesn't mean you're failing, Lisa. You just can't do it." And so I listened to my colleague and checked in with myself to really quickly notice what I was thinking was intuition, I
Mhm.
believe was instinct and survival because I didn't see another way. And I think that I will always remember that moment because what could have happened if I hadn't checked my gut with someone and that I trusted and also been open to their feedback that my idea was not the best.
Mhm.
I'm actually tearing up thinking about it because it was so profound.
Mhm.
And I think we have leaders that are in that space a lot right now when they're looking at layoffs and reorgs. And I think that's why I want to talk about it because even 3 weeks ago, I had a client who was in a very similar situation.
Mhm.
And I had this experience and I said, "Hey, this is what I was thinking, and this is where I went, and this is what shifted." And we had a really great talk about how do you resource yourself to then access your intuition instead of thinking it's something else.
Yeah.
And same conversation happened, same result happened. And I got the text that was like, "Thank you so much for helping me see this because I couldn't see it."
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think that the thing that for me, as I'm talking about it, is that nobody's perfect. And when you're running as fast as you are in the back-to-back meetings with all the high pressure, finding a safe sounding board to gut check your intuition or your instinct, right?
Mhm.
I think is the greatest gift you can give to yourself and your team. So I know you're very familiar with the story, and don't want to like give too much because I want to protect the people in the story.
Mhm. Yeah.
But having had seen that, maybe you have some observations too, Gabes. I don't know that you want to just presence.
Well, I just want to recognize and appreciate your vulnerability around that because as a leader, the perfectionism, walking around that we got all the answers, and
Mhm.
that sometimes sometimes, oftentimes we're making the wrong decisions because by the way, we think that it's kind of like us driving. We all think we're good drivers. Really, and as
Oh,
leaders,
I know
we
what
all think
you're
we're
doing,
good leaders,
Gabes.
right?
Yeah.
And then stuff like life happens, and so yes, I am familiar with the story, and in the absence of information, right, or the evidence gathering that you're doing, when you're as a leader, if you're not in a good place, and it's really hard for leaders to admit they're not in good places, right? Because I got to get it done. I have people relying on me. I have business. I have shareholders. I have whatever it is that is, driving your environment. In the absence of evidence, because we're constantly evidence gathering, it's it's really like sharing that story. Yeah, it makes sense. You were in a place of not having clarity and focus, and you recognize it was your instinct, not your intuition, right?
Mhm.
And in the end, the person, wonderful, wonderful employee and just like and part of the team and moved through the situation and ended up being bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and doing really great things for the business. So there was, but yet you learned from it. And I know witnessing it, I learned a lot too as a leader, of when I need to question my own intuition, that gut feeling, and then checking in with someone. Because I think it's really important for people to have work friends,
Yeah.
and people that they trust, that they can be honest with and have those honest dialogues with, and have someone to brainstorm with and have an understanding of what's going on and to give that person the gift of, no, I think you're wrong. and why it is,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
and even like, "Have you thought about this?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Thank you for that, and I
Mhm.
also think one of the things that, in that process that I learned, and this is why I love what we do, is, recognizing burnout sooner,
Mhm.
right? And understanding that if you are this stressed and that maxed and there's no joy and everything feels big and you're feeling cynical all the time and no one else can do it as good as you can, you're probably not accessing your intuition. Like, "Psst,
Yeah.
that's not how you access
You're
your
like,
intuition."
yeah, you're here.
Oh, hello, right? How about you, Gabes? Is there a story you want to share that might inspire our audience here today and just figuring out what is intuition and how to access it, whether it's a success story or a learning story, either one?
Well, one of the things I really do want to talk about is that we as humans, we have layers, and yet we're whole. And so to tap into your intuition, I will tell a quick story, but to tap into your intuition, it's accepting the wholeness of who you are and that you might get it wrong. And that's okay because you can learn from it.
Mhm.
You can grow from it. And through fear and resistance, there is growth if you have the courage to go through it, go through the storm, right? In my case, I distinctly remember when, because there have been lots of times in my career where there was that gut feeling and I did not listen to it. And
Mhm.
then after the fact, I'm like, "What the really? Like,
Yeah.
damn, I should have
Mhm.
listened." But I remember it being in a situation where it was before a reorg, and I was pulled into a meeting very last minute to talk to an individual who I didn't really know, and within 10 seconds, I got that feeling in my stomach, and I knew this is my new boss, and I am being interviewed, and I'm not only am I being interviewed, but I'm being interviewed on behalf of my team. And I knew my world was changing. And it did drastically. It changed drastically. In if I did not pay attention to that gut feeling, I would not have been able to navigate layoffs, reorgs, restructuring, roles changing. I mean, just the whole thing. And so that is a situation, and it happens all the time, where we something happens in our stomach and we feel it, or in our throat, or we feel tingly in our bodies, or just all those things, just kind of tapping into those, because they're telling you something. That is your inner knowledge, that is your inner wisdom. You come with it. And the more that we practice, the more we practice with it, the easier it'll get to recognize it. Doesn't mean you're always going to be right,
Mhm.
but you're tapping into your innate wisdom, and I think that's really powerful.
Oh my gosh. Imagine had you not read the room and like felt it, like the sensation part of the gut instinct is this inner knowing.
Mhm.
That's a great example, Gabes. And one of the things as you're speaking, what came to my mind was, my example is when I thought it was intuition, but I was depleted, right? Your example is I didn't know what was coming, but I paid attention to my gut. And I
Mhm.
think both of those are an example too of if you are what they call above the line or below the line in conscious leadership, right? Below
Mhm.
the line is stressed, closed, all the stuff I described in burnout, right? And above
Mhm.
the line is open, curious, flexible, right? Which is part of the firm leadership model. And your example is such a good example of what we call above the line because you were able to go, oh, I thought this was this, but it's that. And here, okay, here I am. Here we go. Right. And I think it's really important as we think about leading teams and organizations in this world that checking in, are you below the line or above the line is like, I think the first that pause and just scan
Mhm.
before you even label something intuition or instinct,
Mhm.
So I love your example because we're showing both sides. Yeah.
Yeah. And both of them led to, growth. One of
They're all
them
growth. Yeah. Listen,
learning.
I'm here to grow. There's a song by Jay Hobbs that says, I'm gonna grow. I'm gonna grow. I'm falling down. I'm getting up. I'm gonna grow. I love that song so much.
I have to
Um,
go. I don't think I've ever heard it.
oh, it's new. Yeah. I'm
Okay.
gonna grow. Oh, he's better than me at this. But yes, it's one of my, it reminds me that I am gonna stand back up, figure it
Mhm.
out, right? And
Mhm.
learn every time. Just like
Yep.
my example, right? Dust yourself off and get
Yep.
back up.
Yep.
Um, I'm looking at my notes about I just want to highlight for people real quick. This is from 2017. This is 5-year-old data. But
Mhm.
just know that this in 5 years ago, the number of bytes of data humanity generated in a day was 2.5 quintillion. Now I had to go look that up because I don't even know how to do that level of math. But that is, it can be written as 10 to the power of 8, a million million millions, a billion billions, a million trillions, or 1,000 quadrillions. And that's 5 years ago.
Okay, I didn't know we were doing math, so
Yeah, get ready. Okay. Check your intuition on this one, Gabes. What's your instinct? Think about the calculator, right?
Yeah.
Here's the
Where's my
deal.
calculator?
That is informing every person right now trying to make decisions as they lead. So
Well,
this is
yeah,
an imperative. I'm not like messing around when I'm looking in this camera and talking to this audience and being here with you. We're in this conversation right now, Gabes, because you and I both know that the way through and the way to survive and thrive is to tap into your intuition. So I know I'm singing songs, but I just want to say, like, this is real and tapping into the wisdom of your team and making it safe where they can be above the line when you ask, what are your thoughts or recommendations? Back to psychological safety and generative questions. Like, this is really critical. So
Mhm.
I'd love to just invite you to have a final thought on this or perhaps an insight, advice. I'm going to get to your song, but knowing that that much data is swirling around for all of these teams trying to be
Mhm.
innovative and staying ahead of the competition, what comes to
Well,
mind?
I think you just tapped on it. What I was thinking when you were talking about all that data is like, being innovative, being customer focused, execution excellence, integrity, having a vision, all those things. There's so much information. And oh, by the way, we alone, just in our bodies, every day, what did they say? Between 50 to 80,000 thoughts we have,
Mhm.
just the individual, and then add
Yep.
in all that information. So I just want to stress that people, you have the wisdom, you find the health in everything, you find the evidence through practice of your intuition, and that really everything you need to be the best version of yourself, you've already got it, all of it, the,
Mhm.
all of it. So I love
I
intuition.
love that. Yeah, my
Awesome.
coach used to say, I'd say, "I don't know," and she'd say, "If you did know, what would you know?" Right?
Mhm.
I'm like,
Oh,
"What?"
yeah.
She's like, "You always know. It's inside, but you have to tap into it," right? And it was
Mhm.
so frustrating to hear that, and yet I still hear her in my head, Denise Briette, who is no longer with us, but with us,
Yeah.
saying to me, you gotta access it," right? And I
Mhm,
think that's the beauty of the wisdom inside the system and inside the organization is
mhm.
creating the space and asking the questions as the leader. Don't tell, ask. What do you think? What issues do you see? How might we? Like these types of questions really can help people tap in. Thank you,
And ask
Gabes.
of yourself too. Ask of yourself too, right? Not
Oh, for
just
sure. Go there first.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, song. We love to put a song into this stuff. What's when you think of intuition and someone's out there going, okay, I want to drop in more or figure this out. What's a song that could help them on their journey?
So this is a really it's so funny. I was thinking about John Lennon. He has a song called Intuition.
Get
So go
out.
look it yeah, go look it up. He wrote it in, like, the early '70s, but the main frame is intuition takes me everywhere, and so I highlight to everybody that song. Go listen to it. It's very cool. So
Intuition by John Lennon. I'm gonna go check that out. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we've got Grow by J Hobbs, Intuition by John Lennon. You heard it here first from Lisa and Gabes. Find yourself above the line, tap in, resource
Mhm.
yourself first, check in with yourself first, and allow yourself the space and the place to be able to tap into this so that you can get rid of the noise and be present with yourself for the decisions and leadership that you need to make. Gabe's final thoughts?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Everyone, if you're here live, thank you for participating and dropping in the chat. For those of you on replay, please make a comment. We'll be with you. If you think this conversation could be of service to you and your team, we'd love to bring it into your organization. So feel free to play this video or reach out to us. We're here. We support you. We support each other. And thank you so much and make it a great day, everyone. Thank you, Gabes.
Bye.
That's a wrap, folks. Whether you're here with us live for the reboot or caught the replay to upgrade your leadership drive, I want to say a big thank you for being a part of this experience. Your input and energy are what keep us going strong. But hold on tight, this isn't where the journey ends. Let's keep the momentum going by sharing your thoughts in the comments, spreading the word on social media, or dropping me a message. I'm all ears and ready to connect. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button or ring the bell so you don't miss our next episode. If today sparked something for you, your likes and comments mean the world. They help us reach more leaders like yourself and prevent burnout. Together, we're not just leaders, we're firm leaders, upgrading our drive and rebooting our leadership game one episode at a time. Oh, and one more thing. If you're interested in bringing this valuable discussion to your teams or organization, RLD Group is here to lend a hand. Reach out via LinkedIn or email hello@rldgroupllc.com. We'd love to chat. Until next time, this is Lisa Duerre signing off with a virtual high five and or a virtual fist bump, whatever you choose. Make it a great day, everyone.